Hello, welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be making a couple of videos over the course about the different types of job I have done. Okay, so one video will be for one job and another, just so I can get enough detail out there. So, as mentioned previously, I started out working on the bins, refuse driver they call them. So, I got this job and I got it with no experience. It was my first job. I applied for it, and I thought it was quite exciting at first. You know, potentially driving a bin truck. I thought it'd be pretty good. So obviously I went there. You do a little induction, shown obviously different mechanisms on the truck, etc. Also how to load a bin, because as a bin driver, if you're not too sure, you will have to load some bins. Now, to be fair, it's not too bad. Mostly the time, as a driver, you'll have to load bins is where there'll be a lot of group of bins all stacked up, potentially in cul-de-sacs, or where a lot of people have dragged them down from alleyways, and that's where you'll go out and unload the odd bin. It's really not too bad, but beware, you will load the bin. And I did have a bad experience with one of those bins, which I'll get to later on. I think you'll find quite funny. So after I did my induction, etc., I went on the training, and next thing you know, you're with a crew on the training. So you'll have your driver, normal driver there. The driver I had, quite experienced, a lot of years doing it. There were two drivers I had. One was mostly laid back, he was okay. The other one was a bit, I don't know how to put this, but I don't know if you've ever seen the film Hot Fuzz. You get the very serious police officer in charge. He was very proud of his job, let's just say that. And he was good at it, but very proud of it. Anyway, he was telling me and taught me basically that, you know, to think about your loaders. And obviously when you start, you want to be quickly getting to the next stop, stopping, quickly getting to the next stop. And he's more or less kind of rushing you through it, really. But that's obviously because everybody wants to finish early, which is one of the main things about being a bin driver, especially the loaders. Some drivers are not too bothered, but loaders, they want to get there, clock in and get out, and that's it. Which is the main thing about being a bin driver. It's job and finish. So I started 7:15, and where I would line up, all the other drivers, we'd all line up. You wouldn't have a clue which crew you were going to have. So the regular drivers might have a regular round, but the crew, which is the bin loaders I'm referring to, might change here and there. You might not get the exact same crew every single time. When I first started, I was covering certain rounds until I got my own round. So you would wait in a line, get handed your keys. Quite serious, some of the office staff there. They give you a box. You then go do a vehicle check. Now, vehicle checks are quite important, but with the big wagons, I felt quite pressured already. And other drivers did. They still almost seem to skip the vehicle check. They quickly do it once round, check if everything's working, and that was it. You know, drivers were more concerned with literally getting in the wagon, getting the crew, and zooming off and getting the job done. That's how it was. I didn't like that. You know, I prefer to take my time, make sure everything's right. So you go in there, you've also got to work a little computer that you have to learn to work. Not too difficult, but I'll come to that a little bit later on. You get your crew, you put all their names down, paperwork. You've got to do all this paperwork. They don't have to do that. And you do feel a little bit of pressure straight away, because you know your bin lads are there and they want to get out and they want to finish. So you automatically feel that little bit of pressure right there and then. You know, which again, I didn't really like. So off you go, and as a new driver, you know, I was flapping a little bit here and there, even to the point where I almost got out of the yard and I forgot to put my taco in, so I had to put that in. Anyway, on the run, obviously you'll be given different rounds. Some rounds are harder than others, some are shorter, depending on what you are on. You know, now the bins, from my experience, are not what they were years ago, maybe in the 80s, 90s, where you would finish at 1 or 2 o'clock. I'm not saying people don't, because there'll be people out there who do finish, but from my experience, I didn't finish at 2 o'clock, you know. And one of the other drivers I was with, he didn't really finish 1 or 2 o'clock. It was rare. You finished early, but not that early. So, you know, a lot of myth going out there that you work as a bin driver and you'll be done by 1 o'clock all the time. It doesn't work that way, I don't think. So I was on garden waste a lot. I also did bottles as well, and obviously you don't know the rounds, so you rely on your bin lads to give you signals. So they'll give you signals if they want you to reverse, they might do that. If they want you to drive forward, they'll do that, and they'll give you guidance, reverse that cul-de-sac, drive forward into that one. They'll tell you you can do a U-turn at the bottom, all this kind of stuff. You've got to be on your guard. You've got to be looking out for pedestrians, cars, parked cars especially, and you've also got to be looking out for your bin lads. Now, this is something quite important, because what they will do, you'll stop at a bin, and you'll have to line up your back end with a camera at the back to make sure it's not too far forward, so they're walking great distances. You don't want that, I was taught. You also don't want to be too far behind, where they're having to drag the bin round the back to put it in line with the bins. So you feel a bit stressed like that. You want to make sure it's almost bob on, so they can just walk out and straight on there. You don't want to be forcing them to do more walking than they need to, because as a loader, a crew member bin loader, very hard job. I don't know how they do it, if I'm honest, I really don't. So you're looking at them. You stop, you're moving forward, you stop, you see them in the camera, you press a button to activate the bins. They go up, they go down. You've got to look at them all the time to see, right, has the bin emptied? They might signal you through the camera to say, whoa, 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 don't stop, it's not emptied. So you have to wait for them. You wait for them. Once they walk off, you've then got to look ahead, left and right, where's the next bin? Right, they go into that one, right, you go there, again, push forward, stop again, in line. And the same routine, over and over and over. Okay? Now, it might not seem difficult, but it's tiring. Because you constantly stop, you're looking at your camera, you're looking forward, you're looking at your camera, you're looking forward, looking at your camera, back, this. Very difficult. Then, they might tell you to turn left down the street. Sometimes a bin wagon might struggle to get through down that street, and you're almost difficult getting through. You're looking at both corners. The bin lads might have walked away. You have to try and gauge whether you can get through. They might direct you, or they certainly should, down a corner. That will help, but it's still stressful. You're sweating going down here, thinking, oh, I'm so close, am I going to hit that car? Because if you hit the car, you're not in trouble, because it happens all the time, but it delays you round. And of course, the bin lad's not going to be happy with that, because they think, right, we've got to stop now for 20 minutes, taking all the details, etc, etc. So you don't want to be doing that. So you feel pressure. Backing up is the same thing. You will have your reverse camera, does help, depending on how good it is. You'll have your mirrors, but again, you'll be sweating going down, hopefully not hitting anything. And it can be so difficult. You miss something, you've hit something. I did hit a car. When I turned to reverse down a gully, I didn't look down the gap, and as I reversed, I didn't see a car directly behind me. I was a newbie at the time. So it's very difficult. Very difficult. Also in the cab, obviously, there in and out. I also had one of the lads light up a cigarette. Some of you might not mind that. I did. I didn't want that. And you're actually in charge of the crew, technically. Now, that sounds okay on the face of it, but it's your job, certainly where I was, to tell the crew, right, if you're wearing trainers, you've got to wear boots. You're not allowed to smoke in the cab. And it just brings a very uneasy kind of atmosphere, especially as they're the ones, you're relying on them to guide you and tell you where to go, you know. So it felt a bit uneasy for me. I was relying on these lads, and yet I had to tell them, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's a bit difficult. The bin loaders, I would say, about 50% of bin loaders are great lads. Great lads, I mean that. Fantastic. They were sound with you, everything's great. The other 50%, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't say hello to them or go for a drink with them at all. It's difficult to explain, but there just wasn't a connection there. You know, they're just difficult with you. It was almost like, with those 50%, it was like drivers are against the loaders. You're on two separate teams. You know, you've got the easy job, we're having to load. You know, that kind of atmosphere, that kind of thing. You know, I was trying to speak to a lad, he was just muttering, what you doing? You know, and I would ask him for directions, we're going left, and he would just reply to me, well, you're going left, I told you twice. You know, in that, literally that kind of tone. And you just don't want that in a whole working day. On your break, you'll get 20 minutes only. Well, that's what I had. And you've got to share your break with lads. You can't put your feet up. You're both in the cab there. Some might go for a walk if it's a nice day. If it's raining, you'll be in the cab. They'll just sit there for 20 minutes. You can't do what you want. If you want to put a station on, you know, you've got to think about what music you want with lay like that. If you're taking a phone call, if they're out in the rain and you're taking a phone call, they're not going to like that, I don't think. Same, I felt a bit guilty sometimes having a quick snack. If it was raining and they were loading bins, having a quick snack, I felt a bit guilty. All this, for me, didn't fare well as far as driving the bins. And yes, there were times where we would turn a corner, 2 cars blocking the way, and we'd have to go out. You'd have to knock on the doors for someone to move that car. You couldn't get round. It was very, very stressful that way. And by the time the last bin was going on, you know, you couldn't wait for it to go on, me as a driver. I was mentally knackered with it. I was mentally knackered. And then obviously going back, the loaders can go home then. They can be dropped off wherever they want. They don't have to clock out. That's it. That's them done. Okay, so that's why they want to finish early. They just want to clock in, if so to speak, finish your job, and they can just walk away. You then have got to go and tip your wagon. You've got to go and tip your wagon. That takes time to do. Then you've got to go back to the depot. You might have to do this twice, tip your wagon twice, which I'll get to in a minute. Get back to your depot, fill out all your paperwork again, do all your checks. All that takes a good half an hour, if not more, if not longer. You might have 2 trips to go as well, certainly on glass, because obviously you've got a 26-ton wagon. It only takes so much. Paper's obviously nothing. Garden waste, glass will take up weight, so you might have to go to a tip. That again takes time up. You won't get it all done in one go, and you'll have to go out again. Okay? The computer on board, did mention before, relatively easy to use, but some, certainly the company I was working for, on behalf of the council, you had to input when the waste was what was called contaminated. So, for example, green waste might have bottles in, or bricks, or whatever. Paper might have glass in, you know, and you don't take them out. If the bins weren't put out, you've got to record it on the computer. Little bits here and there, bits here and there. Assisted bins where disabled people can't bring the bin out. You've got to make sure they're out. You've got to go and get those bins. Again, you might have to record it on the computer. As well as all what else that you're doing. Driving, and you're then having to work the computer and do this and do that. Lads are waiting for you to come up to load the bin on. I just felt very pressured for me. That was my experience. Felt very pressured, almost like a slave to the lads. Now, that might be my issue, but that's how I felt a little bit. I felt a bit pressured. On one of the waste, like I mentioned before, I was on garden waste a lot. Heavy bins, they can be heavy. You pull in one of them, it's very heavy indeed. Same with the glass. On one occasion, it was raining, got one bin, put it on, and it didn't go all the way up. They do jam a little bit here and there, so you will have that. A couple of bags fell down on the floor. You have to scoop them up, put them in with your hands. One bag fell out, tried scooping it up, it had burst. And it went all over my hand, and it was poo. I don't know if it was dog poo or human poo, but it was awful. Absolutely awful. You can imagine. So I didn't have the best experiences going forward with that. Obviously, when you clock out for the day, you're done. You do tend to finish a little bit early. You might do 8-9 hour shift, give or take. You might do less here and there. But then the next morning, again, you're in that same routine, and you're dreading a little bit. Who's going to be in your cab today? What loads have you got today? You got good lads? Or you're going to have, you know, complete morons? And I don't mean that in a really bad way. I just mean where the mentality is just, they're not working with you. You know, they're out for themselves and that's it. That's the difference. So that was my experience of bins. There are pump people who work on bins that are there for 20 years. The guy who taught me he got so used to the routine, the route, he knew everything, knew the lads quite well, and he liked it. He was used to it. People stay on for life. And some people just stay on for a couple of days. I didn't stay on that long. I was on for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, including the training. Me personally felt quite pressurised. I didn't feel I had the freedom. As a lorry driver, I enjoy my freedom of having the cab, the music. If I want a quick snack, if I want to take a phone call, if I want to just have a quick break, stop over for a minute. I felt my time wasn't my own. Again, I felt a slave to the loaders because I knew they wanted to finish, and I just, right, let's get this job done, come on. So for me, it took away all those things that I went into lorry driving for, to be my own boss, because I no longer was my own boss. I certainly didn't feel it. So that's my experience of bin wagons. Okay, if you want to leave some comments below, and a like or two, that's great. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because like I say, it's not for everybody. Some people love it and will do it for life. Some people, like myself, will hate it. But it's just, all I want to do is give you an impartial view of how I felt. All I can do is give you a view on how I felt. The funny thing is, I have considered a few times to go back, potentially working for the council. I've heard working for the council is a little bit easier than a subcontractor. But again, I'd have to really think that through. You know, I'd be purely doing it to potentially just do 8 hours a day, you know, which is potentially what you can do. That's the only reason I think I'd be doing it, and just grit my teeth maybe on some of the things. But it's not the easiest driving to do. But, you know, maybe the perks is finishing early, you know, knowing that you're not going to be unloading or going to different places where you're not going to be able to find. You're going to know your route, or the lads will know the route, so you know you're never going to get lost that way. So there are some perks to it. Usually good pension as well, good benefits. And you know, mostly you're going to go local as well, so you're going to be back every night. But the bad parts for me were just the fact that I didn't have my own freedom. I didn't feel my own boss. It took everything away that I loved, or that I wanted to go in the industry for. Yeah, and it just wasn't enjoyable driving. So they're my thoughts. Right, thanks to you for listening. By all means, leave some comments and any questions. Yeah, I'll get back to you. Thank you very much.